Greetings, fellow nerds, and welcome to Two Nerds versus the Internet. My name is Andrew, and as the resident nerd and host, tag along each week as I'm joined by a fellow nerd, and this time it's Tyler. We've had Tyler before, so you don't have to get that excited. Good job, Tyler, and getting excited for us.
I'm thrilled to be back. What can I say?
Good. Glad to have you back. But join us today as we discuss and debate a wide variety of different topics across several different fandoms, giving our point of views on why it's the best and why you should agree with us. For this episode, not just because Tyler's special and we're going to treat him as special, we're going to do something a little special. This isn't just our run-of-the-mill, let's pick a topic, let's discuss it, let's debate it, let's say why it's the best. We're actually going to review something today. We're going to take something that exists and we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, if there is any. Everything's got an ugly side. But we're going to discuss and debate a movie of all things, and not just some old movie that every one of you's probably seen at this point. Today's topic is Fantastic Four: The First Steps. And I say the first steps on there because, Tyler, how many other Fantastic Four movies have we had up to this point?
We have had, so theatrically we've had 3, and then there's that, garbage 4th one from the 90s that never actually got released.
Funny enough that you say it's a garbage one. I was watching a video before this in preparation, doing a little bit of research, and a guy said that it was probably one of the best versions of explaining why each character has their powers.
Interesting. Okay.
And did you know, and I didn't know this before, but did you know those 4 characters are actually in the new Fantastic Four movie?
Really?
Those 4 actors are in it.
No way. That's hysterical.
Yep. Towards the beginning when they're doing their montage, and this isn't spoilers, and I will go ahead and say, we're going to get into some spoilery topics in a little bit. I'll be sure to throw up a big red flag and say, hey, spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the movie, stop listening here. But there's that early montage in the beginning where there's all the different people saying, thank you, Fantastic Four. One of the sets of people that come by is the original cast from that 90s movie saying thank you, Fantastic Four.
That is so cool. I had no idea. That's an awesome detail to throw in there.
That's a pretty cool little Easter egg to sneak in. No one's gonna know because, like you said, it's the garbage one from the 90s that nobody's seen because it was unreleased.
But man, that montage too, that honestly was one of my favorite parts of the whole freaking movie, because if you're a Fantastic Four fan, the amount of little Easter eggs that they drop in there, where it's like a rolling news shot, but it's like, oh yes, that's this classic cover that I've seen 1,000 times, and they recreated it just for this little throwaway montage scene. Stuff like that was super cool.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, before we dive too deep into the Fantastic Four First Steps, I got a question I've got to ask you. What's the nerdiest thing you've done in the last week?
I think so. I have been playing a lot of Subnautica lately.
Subnautica, okay.
That has been my guilty pleasure getaway from reality for the last week, and so that's probably the nerdiest thing I've done is, get traumatized by the endless fear of the unending dark abyss and what lies below, and willingly going in as deep as I can to see if I'm able to survive one more dive.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Subnautica is a how do you classify it?
It's an adventure survival game.
Yeah,
that will traumatize you in every way imaginable.
But, if you play it correctly. If you play it correctly and actually do all the exploration parts of it, if you have no idea what you're doing and you're just building a submarine and trying to stay alive at the surface, you're not really gonna be that traumatized.
No, you will. That might actually be worse, because then you're even less likely to expect it when it happens.
That's fair. Well, cool. Well, glad to have you back. Glad to have you as a part of this conversation. And yeah, there have been several other Fantastic Four movies. So for pretty much the rest of this, we're just going to call it the Fantastic Four movie. So something that's kind of fun about the way that this is named, Fantastic Four: The First Steps, is a couple different things. And one of them is the biggest double entendre, that this is the Fantastic Four's first steps inside of the MCU. you know? And a lot of that is just because they've been owned by Fox for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
now that Disney owns Fox, they said, haha, we can finally throw them in there. And it makes sense for them to be there
Yeah.
because
Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot about the Fantastic Four that is vitally important to the MCU as a whole. You know,
So much.
I think you and I could do a whole episode on just the Fantastic Four as a collective, but I want
Yeah.
to try to keep it as focused on the movie today as possible.
Fair
But
enough. I'll do my best.
before we do that, the most important question I got to ask you, how does this movie rank as a movie out of 10 for you? Score out of 10.
For me, this was a very solid 7.5.
7.5, good number. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time throughout.
Hmm.
Every part of it was fun for me. Like I said, they had all these little Easter eggs, which as a decently long time Fantastic Four reader that I loved picking up on. The goofy references to the cartoon show and things like that, the action figures and
Right.
I really, really enjoyed that. And then I felt that the plot line was good. The stakes were appropriately high for a team of this caliber.
Sure.
I felt like the characterizations were done well, and the team as a whole had pretty good on-screen chemistry.
Yep.
A little different than what I would, at least the way I've imagined them in my head.
Sure.
But not so far that I was like, whoa, this is a radically different departure from how I would have expected it.
I completely agree with you there. And I'm not even the Fantastic Four fanboy like you are, but that opening sequence of them, and again, I don't want to spoil too much, but that opening sequence told me exactly how well Pedro Pascal had understood the assignment of be the guy who's thinking logically. His brain is occupied in 5 different directions. He's not connecting all the dots all at once. He'll get there, but he's on a one-track mind when he's looking for something. And I was like, this is perfect. And then Sue just comes out and she's like, no, it's over here. It's this. And he's just like, oh, okay. And he's just like completely oblivious to everything and then gets focused in on what's going on. And then all of a sudden his attention turns a different direction because, oh, now my brain has to think about this. And I was like,
Yep.
all right, yep, he's got it. This is good. We're good. Keep going.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a great movie. Lots of really fun, sci-fi action that I felt captured the type of story you would expect from this team.
Sure.
So yeah, really liked it, but I also had some personal things that I would have liked to see differently. Similar to when we were chatting about the Superman movie, and
Of course.
even though I gushed and gushed about how much I love it, I still had my personal things that I wanted done differently. So I've got my share of those for this one as well, which is why it's not up there as a 9 or a 10.
Well, then how does this rank compared to other MCU movies for you?
Oh, it's pretty up there. I would definitely say it's up there. Now I'll also admit that I'm more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy. I have not seen every MCU movie,
okay.
So I really have. When you ask that, it's really asking like, how does it compare with the Phase 1 Marvel movies? To be totally honest.
Yeah.
And big
maybe
shocker.
Into Phase 2, because I know you and I have seen Phase 2 and the start of Phase 3 movies.
Yep. And I would put it up there with like Civil War.
Yeah.
I'd put it up there with better than Iron Man 2 and 3. Better than Thor 2.
Easy. Come on now. Suitcase Iron Man was the best thing.
Okay, that is pretty peak for sure. Like Suitcase Iron Man is legit. You know how much I love a stupid 90s throwback. Like
exactly.
I'm
you
all
talk about stupid throwbacks from the 90s. Suitcase Iron Man. I lived for that moment. That was amazing.
That was amazing. But there was enough other crap in that movie to drag even Suitcase Iron Man down. So my all-time favorite MCU Captain America: First Avenger, followed
Mhm.
very closely by Winter Soldier.
Okay.
And then I also really love uh, Thor: The Dark World. Actually, is a personal favorite of mine. I think I said earlier that that one ranked a little lower. I did not mean Dark World. I meant
Tyler,
uh,
I'm gonna need one of your nerd cards. Come on, Dark World.
I'm not a Thor guy. I thought that one was fun. As somebody who really didn't have any comics reference for Thor, I thought that was the most fun. Yeah. Yep.
We're gonna
Mhm.
we're gonna have to come back to that conversation later. I'm just gonna throw this in there. It's a solid B tier for me. If you know that like standard internet
Yeah. Oh yeah.
ranking, it's a somewhere in the B tier for me.
Okay.
There are definitely better movies. There are
Yeah,
some
for
that I
sure.
think it's pretty equivalent to, and it's definitely better than a lot of Phase 4, 5, and I think that was the end of 5, start of 6. I can't keep it straight anymore. But since Endgame, it's one of the better ones, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
I would agree with that.
since Endgame, it's definitely one of the better ones. For those listening, what's your ranking of it? But then I gotta ask real quick, how did you get into the Fantastic Four? Because those who know the conversations we've had, you started off with Superman. Did you
Mhm.
immediately go Superman into the Fantastic Four, or did it take you a moment to find them and then you just kind of found them and said, "Oh, these guys are awesome. Let me find out more."
So yeah, I didn't get into them for quite some time actually. They were pretty late, I would say, into my dive into comics because
Hmm.
because I was a Superman guy, and that did eventually, after quite some time, evolve into being a DC guy.
Hmm.
But I never touched Marvel for years, really. It was
Okay.
exclusive to DC. Um, and my only exposure to the Fantastic Four was actually an old PS1 side-scrolling beat 'em up that I had played at a friend's house or rented a couple of times from Blockbuster as a kid. I really don't even remember how I found it. But for whatever reason, I don't know how I like recognized the team from commercials or something. And so that was my first experience with the team, and I was like, "Whoa, you mean this guy can turn his hand into a giant wrecking ball and break down walls, and then he can turn into a trampoline and bounce other characters off of him? And this dude's on fire? That's so cool!" Because when you're a 6-year-old, fire is the coolest thing ever. It's still the
Fire is the
coolest thing
coolest
ever
thing
as a
ever.
33-year-old, but when you're 6, it's way cool. Um,
It says
yeah.
something about
So
us that fire's cool.
oh yes, fire is definitely cool. That is a fact. You can't debate me on that. But yeah, that was my first introduction to the Fantastic Four, and going back now with actual critical thinking capability, that game was garbage. Like you can go find some videos on YouTube of people just destroying that game. Um, but of course, as a kid, you don't know any better. You're just like, oh, this is cool. I'm fighting
Right.
little alien guys, and you know, it was a blast. So that was my first exposure to them. But it was probably years later that I would actually learn that they were a comic book team, and that's where their origins were.
Do you have
And
a favorite out of the four?
oh yeah, Mr. Fantastic for
Yeah.
sure.
I kind of figured it was Mr. Fantastic, but I had to ask. And is it because of his stretchiness, or is it because of his intelligence?
It's definitely both. Cause I don't really gravitate towards the like stretchy characters. You've got Plastic Man and Elongated Man in the DC universe, for example, Metamorpho even.
Right.
And generally speaking, that's not a power set that I've ever thought was particularly awesome. But for some reason, when you pair it with Mr. Fantastic, I think it all of a sudden, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the magic sauce is, but that pairing, for whatever reason, to me is really cool. And
Yep.
then you stick him on the team with those other three, and now it's just like super awesome. And I think so. Again, we want to focus on the movie, so I don't want to get too much into it, but I think a lot of it has to do with the types of stories that were unique to the Fantastic Four. And I
Hmm.
think those settings created a lot of interesting moments and storytelling opportunities that made that it gave that power set a lot more potential to be something really cool rather than just kind of like goofy and gimmicky like feel like it usually tends to be.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair. So how do you rank the Fantastic Four? And it's kind of a twofold question here. Do you rank them individually by each of the characters being like, Mr. Fantastic's my number 5 and the Thing is like number 57? Or do you say the Fantastic Four is number 5?
Oh man. Yeah, so I would say I tend to rank Mr. Fantastic individually.
Okay.
And then the team as a whole would be a separate rank, but I don't have ranks for the rest of the individual members. And I would say, it gets tricky because I've got my list of what I would call like my top 5, but I've actually been thinking about like, I kind of feel like that needs to be revised lately because I feel like I've been a little too restrictive. Realized the other day that like I've told you my top 5 for years, and it's never included Optimus Prime,
which is interesting.
And it's like, well, yeah, that's because he's a transformer, not a superhero. And it's like, but what is a transformer, right? Come on. So
I mean, you could
say my ranking
system
is in turmoil at the moment. But what I can say at the very least is if I were to rank my favorite Marvel characters,
he'd be number 2.
What's that?
He'd be number 2, wouldn't he?
No, because number 2 is actually Angel from the X-Men.
Okay.
So I think he would be fittingly number 4.
So 2 seconds, run us through your 4.
Yep. So it's Cap.
Yep.
Angel, Hulk, Mr. Fantastic.
Okay. Last question before we enter spoiler territory. What's something people who don't know anything about the Fantastic Four need to know before going to see this movie?
So I thought about this one because you did send me this one ahead of time, and I'm gonna take a cop-out answer here because I think one of the best things that this movie did is you genuinely can walk into it without knowing a thing and still enjoy it.
Know a thing.
Wow, that was one of the worst puns I've heard from you yet.
Listen, it was easy. It was there. I had to take the opportunity for it because it was funny to me. Someone out there is laughing listening to this.
Yeah. My wife, who's behind the screen, is chuckling and nodding, telling me that yes, it is funny. Stop being.
Thank you.
But yeah, for real. I mean,
the thing.
there's so much. I mean, I feel like for a movie that didn't spend any time really telling their origin or, giving the backstory, you just get thrown into this existing world where they're established heroes and everybody knows and loves them. Like at no point are you like, oh, wow, I'm really glad I read all those comics because otherwise I'd have no idea what's going on. Like there's probably a lot of like little Easter eggs that if you know them as a longtime fan, you're like, wow, that's really cool. Or, oh man, I can't believe they referenced that. Or like,
I've got several queued up because of that video I just watched.
Exactly. And so like that's really cool and that's really fun. That's a fun aspect of it. But by no means does any of that contribute to your ability to understand or enjoy the movie in its own right for what it is. And I think that was actually one of the best things that they did. And I feel like, I don't know how they cracked the code, but Superman did the same thing. And so I feel like, I, for one, I'm really glad that and also the Batman, now that I think about it, like, I'm really glad that we've kind of established enough of the superhero genre that they're like, all right, we don't need origin stories anymore. Let's just tell the stories that people want to go see.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. First surprise question for you that you didn't know was coming. Which is better, Superman or Fantastic Four?
Oh, Superman.
Oh, is that because Superman ranks that much higher than Mr. Fantastic? Or was it
no,
Superman was a better movie?
I think in this case, it truly just is that Superman was a better movie.
Okay.
And I will be the first to admit that I have a bias there, but I think on it in its own right, Superman was a just better movie experience overall.
Okay.
No, that's not to say that like it's miles and miles better. You know, it's
Yeah.
like a high, like you said, it's like a high A tier versus a B tier.
Yeah.
I don't even know that Superman was quite S tier for me. It was close, but not quite there.
All right. So with all of that little bits of background, I guess I can add my 2 cents. I've not really read much Fantastic Four. I got a Fantastic Four book over my shoulder. I think you got me that in like a random bundle book once for my birthday. And I genuinely haven't read it because it's like Ultimate Fantastic Four #6. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
Oh, was that one of those like grab bags that I got? Yeah, it was just a bag of random
It's
books
just a bag
that the
of
store was
random
trying
books.
to
Like, here
sell.
you
It
go.
was
Yeah.
$10 for $5 or whatever.
Right. Which, cool to like pad it. And there's a couple things that I've read from it, but that one I was like, I don't know. And I have a Fantastic Four book. Click. I've read them in other books. I don't think I've ever actually read a Fantastic Four book. I do want to, I just haven't yet. My backlog is pretty big at this point. So I don't really have a ranking for any of them, but I'm going to say that the Human Torch is my favorite just because fire.
As we established, fire is awesome.
Fire is awesome. So with that, this is your spoiler warning. If you've not seen Fantastic Four and you want to continue to listen to what we have to say, I do not feel bad for you if we spoil the facts of what happens in the end of the movie. Because from this point on, I'm reviewing this movie in its entirety. I want Tyler's full opinion of everything that happened. You've been warned. I hope you go see the movie and go support it, and then come back and listen to all of this. And I hope you've already seen the movie, and then you can agree and disagree with what we have to say. Spoiler warning. Here on. That's it. Spoiler warning. I've said it enough. Okay. So, spoiler warning's out of the way. Let's get into some of the more fun Easter eggs that I knew and or picked up from this video I watched earlier. The first one, did you pay attention to what universe they were in?
I didn't. Was that shown on one of the screens?
Mm-hmm. It said
What was
Universe 828.
828.
Which
okay.
means nothing until we got to the end of the movie and we saw Jack Kirby with some phrasing about as long as my characters are always alive, I'm always alive.
Yes.
And it's a dash Jack Kirby, 8/28, and then whatever year he was born. So the universe was his birth date, which I was like, okay, that's cool. I caught that
cool.
one. And I was like, yes.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, that's fun. Because I also did know that Jack Kirby is the creator of the Fantastic Four. He came up with this concept when Marvel didn't exist yet, and that it was still the comics, Timely Comics, right? Yep. Which that was in the movie. Timely Comics was in the movie, and I was like, that was so cool. And the fact that I knew that was great. But yeah, for those of you listening, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee are the creators of the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and a myriad of different characters. And the way that it worked was Jack Kirby drew these characters and came up with these concepts of like what they were doing, and Stan Lee threw words on it so that they'd have a story to it. And this was all Jack Kirby's like concepts and his babies. And there's a lot of the thing that Jack Kirby has poured into it because he's kind of like a reflective character. And I was very, very happy to see how much of that bled over into the movie. The fact that he's Jewish, the fact that he's got, the neighborhood that he's from, that he still visits and all of that. I was like so happy that they pulled that from the comic because those are the little details that made it that much better, in my opinion, as the fan who could pick up on the small details.
Yeah, especially those types of details where like, I don't know if you're aware, but the Thing in particular was very heavily based on Jack Kirby's father.
Yep.
Like at least the way he's portrayed, his personality and that kind of stuff. And like you were just mentioning some of his backstory in his home neighborhood. And that's where a lot of that comes from. And the fact that they included that and made sure to emphasize that as a character trait and that type of stuff to me was really cool.
I thought that was great. I thought it was great, like you said, that montage happened at the beginning so that we could say, Fantastic Four's here. They've been here for 4 years. Let's move on. Which it's kind of on the nose. Haha, this is the 4th year of the Fantastic Four. Okay, fine. But this is one I didn't know before, but now makes a lot of sense. Do you know the significance of the 4th year of the Fantastic Four?
Was that the year that the Galactus trilogy was published?
Exactly. It was the year that the Galactus trilogy was published, which was what year? That one.
That would be 1966?
65. Very close.
65.
65,
Okay.
which is the year that it is in the movie.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, that's a really cool detail that the Fantastic Four started in 1961 in their world, and they're now facing Galactus in 1965, which is the year they fought Galactus in the comic books. I was like, that's great. Good job. Kudos. I loved Galactus. I thought he looked great. I thought the movie as a whole made sense. I wish as an MCU movie, they wouldn't have gone straight to Galactus.
Oh, interesting.
That's because you set the stakes so high with someone so big like Galactus. And I do think that they did really good at bringing these characters in and giving you a chance to see them. I wanted more of them using their powers, more of them having to learn how to fight, and not so much the world already loves and accepts them. You know, I don't need the world to hate them, but I wanted the world to not just perfectly, oh, the Fantastic Four said it, let's go. I wanted just a little bit of a, oh God, we're in trouble. Like if it had been 2 or even 3 years in and they weren't up against Galactus, they don't necessarily have to go up against the Mole Man. They don't have to go up against Fin Fang Foom, which they did make a reference to, and I thought that was fun, which they haven't, I guess they hadn't even fought yet, but pick some other villain, and not even Doom. Put them in a struggle where they're trying to protect New York or the Earth or whatever from some other disaster coming, only because we didn't get enough, my opinion, we didn't get enough of them being the superheroes. And this was a lot more of a drama of a family, a very tight-knit family, who happened to have superpowers, which was kind of the biggest flaw of the movie to me. Not that it made the movie bad, because like you said, I know enough about the Fantastic Four. I could suspend belief, go straight into it. This is what's happening. Here's where we are. And I was glad that it was a, here's where we are. I wanted just a little bit more of a, let's use the powers, let's struggle, let's fight. And this felt like a very comic book story, but it did also feel like one that you had to have read enough of the comics to not feel like they didn't do enough for the characters.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's interesting. So, yeah, because I had a very different perspective, and I'm willing to recognize that maybe it is all of the comics of theirs that I've read being, in my subconscious memory, influencing my experience of this movie. Because I liked that they went straight to Galactus. Personally, I thought that was cool, and it's really interesting your take on that. It felt like it was a movie about the family struggle, and the family just happened to be people with superpowers. I kind of love that because that's the flavor that so many of the comics take.
And I think that was a good thing in the regard of, because if you look at the MCU movies, like that is one thing that I really do like. I might not be the biggest Marvel comic book reader. I do enjoy 80% of the MCU movies. I was going to say 90%, but there's been some interesting ones as of late. If you look at the MCU movies as a collective, they're not just superhero, punches bad guy, fights enemies, destroys Skybeam, saves the Earth, which is a good thing. Like, look at Thor Ragnarok. That was a buddy cop film. Your classic people running around not knowing what they're doing buddy cop film of, kind of like a Naked Gun style type, we don't know what's going on, let's go save the day kind of thing.
Yep.
And that's cool. And I liked that. And you look at Captain America and the different Captain America movies, and it's more that spy espionage style of, ooh, we got to hide in the shadows and figure out what's going on and like try to come out and save the day, kind of James Bond-y. He just also has superpowers. And I think that was a good thing that the MCU did for a very long time. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that they had this one that was so focused on family for the first time, because we've not had that. We've had groups of different characters, and Endgame is a very emotional movie because of everything that came before it. And it could just be this giant blockbuster of bad guys losing to good guys. But it built upon years of movies. This was the first one that felt like a family movie. And that's great because, like you said, at their core, that's who the Fantastic Four are.
Yeah.
It just felt just a little too much like, oh no, it's a family drama and we have superpowers, but they don't get used that much.
I will say my biggest gripe and what I felt was the biggest flaw of the movie was I didn't see enough stretchy Mr. Fantastic.
Okay. On that note, what is his stretch limit?
That is a great question. I don't know if that's actually been defined.
Because that was my biggest complaint of the entire movie, is when Galactus grabbed him and went this far.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh no, I can't stretch anymore. And he's like falling apart and he's gone like 20 feet. I'm going, come on.
Yeah, I know. Because, I mean, there's panels in the comic books where he's like walking over skyscrapers.
Right.
He's so stretchy.
That was my biggest issue with it, of all of it. I'm like, wait a second. That man can stretch forever. What are we doing?
Yeah. No, my issue was that I didn't see enough of it. We see him like stretch up the side of a building. We see him, stretch over to a building. Actually, I think we see in several scenes where he does stretch farther than Galactus pulls him.
Right.
So
why did it hurt when Galactus did it?
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me, because it's like my first thought was like, well, maybe it's because it was is it willingly or not? But then it's like, then just will yourself to stretch as he's pulling
keep
you.
letting yourself stretch as far as you need to.
Yeah,
Elastigirl stretched further than him.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
And I mean, there's just, when you go through the decades worth of Mr. Fantastic material that's out there,
Yep.
the number of wacky, crazy, fun, cool things that he turns into,
Yep.
and
He
how
didn't
he's able
turn
to use
into
those
anything.
powers. Yeah, it's like,
No.
really the best y'all could do is that he, stretched up a building? Come
Right.
on, guys. Like, that's one of the coolest, like, power sets on the team.
Yep.
Because or at least like the most visually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have some fun with it. Do some crazy stuff. Maybe it's just way harder to animate that and look good.
Not hokey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, okay, well, at the same time, like, that was one of my favorite things about this movie, is that they went all in on the hokey.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved that. Like, lean into it.
All right. So, yeah, you make a good point. It was hokey, and it knew it was hokey, and it started off in a pretty hokey-y way. It had a couple good, fairly serious moments. I'll grant them, for as much as I said I didn't like Galactus being there, I liked Galactus. They did perfectly with him. I thought he looked the part. He felt menacing enough. He felt huge enough. He felt non-Cloud enough compared to other versions of Galactus that were just a giant cloud entity.
Low bar, but okay, I'll give it to you.
Of the versions of Galactus we've seen on screen, this was by far the best.
Yes, definitely. And I gotta say, I there were a number of times where I was blown away with a visual that was on the screen, like the way they did the cinematography and the animation and the effects and all of that, the way it came together, where I looked at it and I was like, that's a Jack Kirby frame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what book it's in. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what page it's on, but that frame from this movie, like, that is a Jack Kirby piece of artwork. And there were so many of those throughout the film. And I personally think it's because they leaned into that hokiness a little bit. Like, I mean, Jack Kirby is an absolute legend, and the art that he did for the Fantastic Four is, equal to none. But there's that, it's still a Silver Age book.
Yeah.
And so you've got that element of the Silver Age goofiness to it that's just always there.
Yeah.
and the way that they captured it without it ruining the seriousness or the tone of the movie, I thought that to me was its biggest strength.
And I see where you're coming from, and I'll give it that it knew what it was and it didn't try to be anything different. Whereas you look at the 2000 Fantastic Four movie, the really bad one
the
with
original
Chris
one.
Evans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was hokey while trying to be serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Silver Surfer was worse hokey while trying to be serious.
Yeah. Because it doesn't always work when you try to take those elements out of the time that they were meant for,
right,
and insert them into the modern, right? You end up with this weird dissonance that it just makes things feel off, and it doesn't really work right, and you end up with this weird mishmash of tone that just kind of throws the whole experience off.
Yes.
Because then you've got the complete other end of the spectrum with the I don't know what to call it, the fan-four-tastic.
Fant-4-stick.
Fant-4-stick, yeah, that one.
Fant-4-stick, yes.
Where it was like they tried to throw out all hokey.
There was no hope.
Go full in onto like the modern sci-fi story, and it obviously we saw how I was going to say how well that worked sarcastically, but I can't even say it sarcastically. It was, I mean, that movie was just not good.
And that one had such potential based on the trailers. It made me go, okay, this is a modern retelling, like they just came out of the Ultimate Universe, and it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Nah.
Nope.
Got out of that and I went, no, absolutely not. Do not try again.
Yeah. I remember we saw it together. And
oh my God.
We both just walked out like, how did they miss it that badly?
Even I knew they missed the mark hugely on that. I was like, oh. I mean, it looked pretty at times, but it was like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
No. There was something I was going to say. They did really good at their world building and filling it out with a lot of things that are from the comics and trying to like copy whatever over that, to your point, gives it that hokey feel. They did really good at making all of them intelligent and have something to bring in their own way. And I really loved Johnny in this movie because he wasn't just the annoying kid brother who was flame on. He still had that side of him. He still, was very into, ooh, there's a girl, let me go flirt with her. He still messed with Ben. He still respected Sue, and he looked up to Reed the right ways, and he wanted Reed's attention, but knew he wasn't going to get it.
They still butted heads a little bit,
and they did. And I'm glad that they gave him a little bit more to do than just be the hothead. He had a solution to the problem, and I think that was fantastic, for lack of a better word. That's how they were able to make him work out in that. And I did want to ask, what's your opinion of it being a female Silver Surfer? Because the video I watched, I was talking about all the Easter eggs. Obviously, there are female Silver Surfers in the comics. That's not a new thing. And I remember someone coming to me and being like, okay, but why is the Silver Surfer a female? I said, she's been a female for a long time. That really doesn't have that much of a bearing on the story. And in fact, I think it worked well.
Yeah.
Going back to what the video had said, because Johnny could flirt with her. And as silly as that is to say, it gave that connection between them a little bit more meaning than Johnny just chasing after the Silver Surfer trying to catch and getting smacked down and being like, oh, let me figure out what's going on here, and trying to appeal to the Silver Surfer. Having it be a female gave Johnny that little bit of connection.
Yep.
Which I like.
No, I like it for sure. Like you said, I mean, I'm not one who feels that movies need to adapt comics 100%. I feel like that tends to ruin movies more than it helps them. And when you understand the source material well enough to take the appropriate artistic license, I think everything ends up better for it. And I think there's a lot to point to as examples of that in this film. For example, in the original Galactus trilogy, Franklin does not exist. Franklin is many, many years from being even a thought in the comics.
Right.
And then the first time there is a major Franklin story where he's abducted by a cosmic entity, parallels, it's Annihilus, not Galactus.
Right.
And so, I don't, the fact that they kind of pulled aspects from different stories and added them in here when they weren't in the original storyline, like, or that they made Silver Surfer a woman instead of a man for this version. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. I think it added some really interesting character depth.
Yep.
It led to some more interesting character interactions, like you said.
Yep.
And they actually were able to use it as a mechanism to help with some character development and furthering along of the plot. So,
right.
When it serves the movie well like that, and it isn't just a change for the sake of being different,
yep.
which even sometimes that works out just fine, and it's like whatever. So yeah, I had no issues with it, and I think it was a good move on the part of the writers.
I do think, like you said, you can take the creative freedoms when they make sense. If there's something that is like so pivotal, like you couldn't leave out Reed Richards' Silver Stripe. You have to have that. Okay, that seems silly, but you got to have it. He has to be Mr. Fantastic and stretchy. Beyond that, Pedro Pascal was a fine Reed Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Does he look the exact same way as every other version in every other comic looks? No, but that's okay. He didn't need to. They took the creative liberty of Ben growing a beard, which some people were upset about, and I thought was awesome, and I couldn't wait to see, because we were at Comic-Con, and they had the Fantastic Four suits out with, like statues of each of them, and Ben had the beard, and I went, oh, he's got a beard. Interesting. And I kept waiting for it to happen in the movie, and I couldn't find anything that says he's ever grown hair at any point ever. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to add in for the Thing, was he can grow it. He just, uses a grinder to like shave himself all the time.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, it was funny that he had a grinding wheel. I was wondering, is he's in there with like a hammer and chisel, or how's that work? But, and it does beg the question, like, is the hair rock a different type of rock than the skin rock?
I mean, it's all the same rock.
How does the grinder know what to stop grinding on?
That's
like, obviously he does it with like the amount of pressure that he applies, but like, is it a different?
Could he just
like,
grind himself
is it
off?
A different? Yeah, exactly.
That's a good question.
These are the questions we need to know.
I don't think we're getting answers to those questions anytime soon.
Ooh, good question from the studio audience. Can the Thing chisel his own jawline?
Now that's an interesting one. Chisel jawline. Quite literally, chiseled jawline. I love it. I have to ask an obvious question. As we talked briefly about how this is as a movie compared to other MCU movies. How does this compare to other Fantastic Four movies? And I know the answer is leaps and bounds. Is there something they could have done in this to make it a better Fantastic Four movie?
I think we've both kind of touched on it, and I would want to see. There's two things that I would have liked to see out of this. One, and first and foremost, and a lot of this is just I'm a goofy fanboy. I want to see more superpowers. I wanted to see more stretchy. I wanted to see more. Well, this is a weird statement, but I wanted to see more invisible.
I got it. Keep going.
Yeah, you know what I mean there. Yeah. And then, like the Thing doing things, right? We saw him pull a giant tanker ship. We saw him throw a giant oil truck and blow things up, and lots of cool fire, because fire's awesome. But like, we didn't see him like, rip a car in half and use it to beat somebody down or something crazy like that.
Knocked a building over to try and hit Galactus with it for like 3 seconds.
Yeah, that was pretty cool seeing him do that. But like, the Fantastic Four is fantastic, and I for all of the cool stuff they did, I still felt like the powers themselves just weren't on display as much as I would have liked. There wasn't enough spectacle. to it, I guess is how I would phrase it.
I'm hopeful that we get more spectacle in the Doomsday movie
Yeah, me too.
because of what's got to happen in that. But
Yeah. So that would be point number one for me. And then
Okay.
point number two, and this really is a personal one, is, you mentioned really how you felt like this was more of a family drama, which, I countered with, I feel like as a comic reader, that's a good chunk of their stories.
Yeah.
I feel like the other chunk of their stories, when it's not family drama, the story archetype that they center around is that they are all explorers,
hmm
right? That's how they all got their powers. They were the first humans of this world to go into space where they encountered this thing. They're always exploring and pushing the boundaries. That they discovered the negative zone, the alternate dimensions, the microscopic dimensions. They're always going into these weird, wacky places.
Yep.
And they did that obviously to go find Galactus, but there wasn't much of the exploration. I would have been much more satisfied if it was like they were going to explore something and accidentally did something that brought their Galactus's attention to them.
Yes.
And that's why he's coming to Earth, was because
Yes.
they did something while exploring that was like, it was like Frodo putting on the ring and suddenly the Eye of Sauron sees them.
Not just that they were pregnant with Franklin.
Yes.
And, and there's a lot to unpack there with them being pregnant with Franklin. And that was the scene that I was referring to. Mr. Fantastic walks into the room and he's like, "Where's the yellow iodine?" And she's like, "I can tell you in 26 seconds. He's like, 26 seconds? That's so specific. Where's that yellow iodine? Like, doesn't even phase him because he's so focused. And then she pops out and says, "I'm pregnant." And he's like, "Cool." And then immediately goes into, "Okay, well, is this baby going to come out with,
we have to do that.
what about this? What about this? He's like overthinking it. And she's like, "Don't freak out." He's like, "I'm not freaking out." And
I'm not freaking out. You're freaking out.
Right. And that told me that the movie was going to be good from their characters right there. But Franklin being a pivotal point of the movie, it makes it more complicated for those who don't know anything about him. And even as a fan of the MCU, Annie and I went to see it. She doesn't know the comics. She doesn't know the Fantastic Four. She came out of it and said, "So what are Franklin's powers and why was he able to heal her in the end of the movie?" And I said, "Power cosmic." She said, "What does that mean?" I said, "He has cosmic powers." "What does that mean?" "I can't explain further than he has cosmic powers." "You can't because you don't want to, or what?" I said, "No, quite literally. It is just he has power cosmic, which means he has infinite unknown potential of power because of cosmic entities."
Yeah.
Like
we had the same conversation on the drive home, and my final explanation of what I ended things on was he has whatever powers the writers need him to have.
Yep. Which it does make sense why Galactus would want him to take over. And even in the comics, he does.
Mm-hmm.
In different iterations of him, he does take over. Franklin does take over. But making this movie about family and about Franklin when I don't know or care about the Fantastic Four as a family further supports my argument of we should have had a Fantastic Four movie. Keep it family based, keep them struggling and fighting amongst each other in whatever family method you do while they end up coming together to fight the bad guy. Make me care about them.
Yeah.
Then bring in Franklin.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. I completely see
Annie's big point was, I don't care about them. Why do I care about their baby?
That's totally fair.
Now, again, as a comic fan, you and I are like, "Oh, cool, Franklin's here. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with him?" We do nothing with him other than tease Galactus.
Canonically single most powerful being in the entire Marvel universe.
Which is why that post-credit scene, or I guess mid-credit scene, because it wasn't the post-credit. Yeah. Oh man. Questions upon questions there.
Loved that, yeah. Is
that a Doctor Strange of their universe, or is that a Doctor Strange of a different universe?
Doctor Doom.
Sorry, that one. Doctor Doom. Is that Doctor Doom of their universe, or Doctor Doom of a different universe?
I mean, it's It's got to be whichever one ends up being Robert Downey Jr.
It could be.
It's got to be, right? I
I
mean,
would think so. But I'm thinking about that as well. Okay. RDJ's Tony Stark was born in the 60s? Roughly, maybe, based on like what we know canonically of Tony Stark from the MCU, which I know MCU. Now we have two different
yeah,
universes.
I guess that tracks. If he would have been what, early 40s in 2008 when the first Iron Man came out,
Yeah, late
Would be-
30s. Yeah, because also Howard was in his 20s, 30s during
World War II.
World
Yeah.
War II. So it would track that, maybe he's late 40s, 50s ish when Tony's born. So he wouldn't have been on whatever ship to get whatever powers to cause him to be Doctor Doom at the same time. So that makes me think they could do it as RDJ, but it could be
Well,
different.
so you're
I know I'm crossing a lot of different streams.
You are.
I know
You
I
are.
am. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
because Doctor Doom does not. There was the early 2000s movie where he's on the ship with them, and that's how he gets powers. That was exclusive to that movie. That's the only depiction where that's the case.
We know nothing about Doctor Doom right now, sir.
This is fair. I'm just saying, across the rest of the existing media, that is not the normal way he becomes Doctor Doom.
So I could see it going a couple different ways here. I could see it being, it could be the Doctor Doom from their universe. I could also see it being the Doctor Doom who's causing the Doomsday event, with it being RDJ as the actor. Because we don't see Doom in this 828 universe.
Right.
We don't see anyone at the Latvia table in the Future Foundation, which I'm glad they called it the Future Foundation and had that to where it's like everyone's a part of it. Huge thing for the Fantastic Four. Great. So jury's still out on what I think is going to happen there. But it does beg a question. Did you see Thunderbolts?
I did not know.
Spoilers for Thunderbolts. The end of the movie, the characters that are still alive, because someone has to die in the Thunderbolts movie. I'm just going to put that out there. The ones who are still alive are in whatever base that they are in. And a sensor's going off saying that there's something in the upper atmosphere. And it's the Fantastic Four's ship.
Oh.
Except it has 4 tail fins, not 3.
Ooh, interesting.
So there's a theory that their ship is destroyed, commandeered, something. And I think the prevailing theory is that Doom's going to take their ship and think that it can universe hop. Because it is, a couple years later since the end of whatever. And maybe
the end of whatever?
End of the movie. End of the Fantastic Four movie.
Oh, yeah.
When Doom is...
Yeah. There's like that time skip to when Franklin's a toddler.
Right. He's like 3 or 4 now. So it's possible that this Doom is from their universe, steals Franklin and the ship, and thinks he's going to be able to get away and fly away. So now they build a new ship and think that Doom is there, and then they recruit heroes, and then Doom shows up. I don't know. There's ways you can do it because, and this is where you have to know what's going on in the MCU, it all ties back to Loki, season 2, where he was told that black holes are the ticket to being able to universe hop. That if you were able to enter into a black hole, it gives you the ability to pop from one universe to the other. And then look at how close they got to a black hole in this movie.
Mm-hmm. It was a neutron star, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyway, same thing. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if Reed did a lot of data analysis and had the ship collecting data while they're trying to get away and slingshotting around a black hole, neutron star, whatever, and collecting all that information and then thinking, hey, you know what? If I could teleport, who's to say I couldn't universe hop because of look at all the science that happens in there. He was about
And
to
that is
teleport their whole damn planets.
Yeah, and
Who's
that
to...
is such a Reed storyline too.
It is. It is. So that's a big question is, you know, at the end of Thunderbolts, they had a 4-prong ship. In this movie, it's a 3-prong ship. Do they just rebuild the ship for some reason? Or are they having to build a new one? We don't know. Nobody really knows what to think about Doom either.
Yep.
I don't know.
Interesting theories.
Good theories though, right?
You've gone a lot deeper down the internet rabbit holes than I have.
That's what I do, man. It's just what I do. The internet tells me.
This is why you're the host and I'm just the guest.
Maybe one day I'll share my power with you, Tyler.
One of these days. One of these days.
Yeah.
Is that like the comic book foreshadowing? You know.
Dun dun dun. So what was
3 years from now we'll have to have the little asterisks of see episode whatever.
Flashbacks to this point. Maybe one day you'll have my power. So what was something else from this movie that you thought they did do well? I think we touched on a bunch of different stuff already.
Yeah. I mean, I loved how they portrayed the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a lot of fun, and it gave a lot of. I loved the like retro futurism of it all.
Yeah,
you know,
that was great.
You know how Herbie he's got the eyes that are like tape cassettes, and like that's how they run their data and that kind of stuff.
The fact Herbie has 2 languages: home, space.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was a big fan of Herbie in this one. Might have actually been my favorite character. No. I also really liked the flame effect on Human Torch. So I don't know if you paid much attention to it, but they did a lot of the like, I don't know how to describe it, but if you go back and look at the old Kirby art, when he does the flame on, he doesn't look the same but on fire.
Mm-hmm.
He gets this weird like it almost looks to me like a quilted texture across his entire
vertical lines going up and
yes
body.
Yeah,
and I'm glad
and they found a way to depict that without looking really weird or off, and that to me was a really cool touch. That was a super like totally insignificant detail that they clearly paid a lot of attention to, because that had to be hard to animate.
Oh yeah. But to your point, you knew it was him. You could see his facial emotions. You could see his facial expressions. But it wasn't just his outline on fire.
Yeah.
You know, you could tell they put a little bit of bulk into him because that fire is kind of like all consuming and everything, which I was like, okay, they knew what they were doing here, which is great. It was great. They had even Jack Kirby's Human Torch on the Lucky Charms box. Like on the front side of it, there was a little bitty Jack Kirby's like Human Torch flying. The back side was like a big cut out of it. I was like, okay, you guys did really good at pulling all of that in. But no,
I love how Kirby the whole movie felt.
Mm-hmm. And it's good. And the video I watched that was talking about all the Easter eggs, he said, as much as we've given Stan Lee so much credit for all of this stuff, I'm glad we're starting to give Jack Kirby credit too, because he is the reason we have Spider-Man and Galactus and the Fantastic Four.
He created Captain America.
You know, he created all these characters. And while Stan Lee gave them a voice, he wasn't the only one working on things. Yeah. So it's good that Kirby's starting to get recognized.
You know, the other non-Marvel major contribution that Jack Kirby made to comics?
I want to say Darkseid.
Yeah, the New Gods. The entire fourth world from DC. So Darkseid, Highfather, Apocalypse, New Genesis. I mean, you talk about all the cosmic stuff that you see come out of the Fantastic Four, right? I mean, Marvel Cosmic, the entire, everything associated with the cosmic storylines of Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Skrulls, the Inhumans, the Celestials, all of that comes from not just Kirby, but specifically the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
Like that is what it's all built off of. And then he turns around and he makes the fourth world for DC. And, you know, that's kind of his brand of like, okay, now what if I had an entire universe where that was all I centered on was these cosmic stories and these, you know, timeless beings,
Right.
you know, where every character is a Galactus,
Yep.
you know? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who may not recognize the name Kirby in comics nowadays, but I guarantee you something that you have read was either created by him or only exists because of him in some form or fashion.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's fantastic. I kind of agree with what we said at the beginning. I think this is a good 7 to 8 of a movie. As movies go, it had a good plot, it had good characters, it had good character development, it had good effects, it had good cinematography. It had a good pacing to it. I never felt bored at any point. There were definitely slower times. The montages were good, short, and kind of to the point. I think something as a movie that it somewhat missed, but didn't necessarily feel like it was a miss until after. How long was it from the time they left Galactus till the time Galactus arrived on Earth? I would like to know that was not just a week. That was probably a month or 2.
I mean, they built all those portals, like that's
right.
Even when you have all resources in the world dedicated to that, right? And then they had to like build up the power grid reserves or whatever, and that had to take at least a week because he mentioned something like all the power generated within a week wouldn't get us there.
Right.
So like, yeah, it had to have been months and months.
And that sick beard he grows. I don't know about you and your beard growing abilities, but I don't think I can go from skin to, you know, like 2 inches off the face of beard in a matter of 2 months.
No.
So,
no.
I don't know. That was one thing that I kind of wanted after the fact. You know, in the moment, I didn't really care. Things are happening. It's moving. Its pace is good. And I got to the end and I said, well, hang on. How long did that all take? Why was this the only idea we had that he could do? What was there nothing else?
And that could have been handled with, you know, some kind of like throwaway line of like, you know, at the press conference, you know, we think we have this amount of time. We have to band together, you know, something like that.
Very simple. Hey, we've got 5 months till he gets here, 6 months till he gets here, whatever it was. I did like that they didn't succeed every single time, though. As a movie goes, it wasn't just immediately show up, have the one failure. Okay, next time I know what to do and I've succeeded. Nope, they still had a second failure and almost a third failure. And only when the Silver Surfer came in at the last moment and said, screw you, I'm doing things my way now. You're going because I'm tired of what you've caused other people.
Yep.
Did they actually succeed? And even then, we all believed Sue to be dead for a minute.
Yep.
So I think that was nice that it wasn't just them succeeding, because they don't always do so in the comics. They have failures. They have to learn from their mistakes. They have to pick themselves back up and find a new way. And it was the fact that they were able to go, okay, if we can't teleport the entire Earth, we'll teleport just Galactus. I was like, great. That makes sense. But why didn't we think about that from the beginning?
Right. Yeah.
Why didn't we activate the teleporters a day earlier, half an hour earlier? Why did we wait till Silver Surfer showed up and started blowing them up to go, oh no?
Yeah. No, yeah, that'd be movies for you, folks.
That's movies. It's not just this one. That's all movies. Oh no, we're down to the last second. Oh no, it all failed. Oh, what do we do? Yeah.
The sports movie where you have to score the winning touchdown as the clock ticks to 0.
You've got 3 seconds to score a touchdown of a 100-yard pass. Not gonna happen.
Yeah. No.
Oh my God, they made the pass. How'd they do that?
Yeah. No. I get it. But yeah, and that's something that, to your point, you know, in the moment watching the movie, those were types of details that, you know, you don't think of, but then as you go home and you have time to think things over, and especially once this comes out and there's opportunities to do rewatches and pause and rewind and that kind of stuff, I suspect the conversation will only deepen. But
oh yeah,
I still felt that it was a very fun, very enjoyable experience. Great way to spend a Friday night.
It was a good first step for the Fantastic Four.
I see what you did there.
Into the MCU. It was a good way to bring them in. It was a good way to start introducing them. I'm very curious what's going to happen next for them post Doomsday, because I can't imagine they're going to be in this Doomsday movie and die and then we never see them again.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think they're going to try and do something with them again. And I want to see Fin Fang Foom. Yeah, that would just be cool. Give me giant Chinese dragon from space that's fighting them. That'd
be awesome.
That's what I want.
Yeah. Especially if we get to see the Thing just punch him right in the nose.
Yeah, that would be great.
Just deck a dragon in the face. Right. That is what I want to see.
Do another Johnny drops him from the sky. It just punches him square in the face. That was perfect.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
Okay, well, Tyler, any last thoughts you've got for us today on your opinions of Fantastic Four?
I've got a couple, and it's mostly related to the comics.
Okay.
Right? I just want to give people an idea. If you liked this movie and you want more, or even if you didn't like this movie and you want to see, by comparison, what is the Fantastic Four at their best?
Yep.
Want to give a few recommendations. Okay. I think for the average reader, the Jonathan Hickman run of Fantastic Four is probably going to be the most accessible.
Yep.
It's widely considered as one of, if not the best single run of Fantastic Four ever written.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very modern writing style. So it's not like you have to put yourself into a Silver Age or Bronze Age mindset and, deal with dated art styles and very wordy dialogue. It's got all the modern conventions of comics. It's a really fun read. I would also highly recommend the original runs by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. They're easy to get your hands on. For reprints are anyway.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. They've reprinted the crap out of them. We've mentioned the original Galactus trilogy a couple of times. So if you want to see the origins that inspired all of these stories and how they really were told the first time out, that's a great way to do it. And then the John Byrne run from the 80s was another fantastic one. He came in, and believe it or not, that's the run where Invisible Girl finally became Invisible Woman. Yeah. From the 60s all through the 70s into the 80s, she was the Invisible Girl. And so, I mean, that just kind of goes to show you how much he developed the characters and the status quo of the family and the team and their place in the existing Marvel Comics universe. So if you have interest in the comics, those would be the three eras that I would point out to go dive a little deeper into. And hopefully something in there will align with your interests, and you'll be able to see why I've been such a big fan for all these years.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I think that's a pretty good recommendations. That's what everyone online says. Those are the key things to read of Fantastic Four, whether for this movie, whether you want more or not. But then I do have one more surprise question for you. Who would win in a fight between the Fantastic Four and the Incredibles, not counting Jack, because we don't know his full power set, with Dash and Violet being young adults, so they're at least old enough to try and keep up with everything else? Between those two families of four with their power sets, who would win?
So am I going with the Fantastic Four as they were depicted from this movie
versus?
I gotta give it to the Incredibles, man.
Yes.
I got to. If we were talking about a Fantastic Four that had the whole range of what they've been depicted to do in the comics, absolutely them. Absolutely the Fantastic Four, because they do some wacky, wild, crazy stuff in the comics. But my biggest gripe is that they didn't give me enough spectacle. They didn't put the spotlight on what they're able to do with these powers enough. And you got a heck of a lot more of that out of the Incredibles.
You do. Even
So
with their
yeah,
Underminer. I mean, Mole Man. I mean, Underminer.
it's not like they were inspired or anything. No,
No.
totally
Wholly original.
unique idea, wholly original. Yeah,
One team has a speedster, one has a guy who flies super fast. Maybe he's on fire.
on
Who's to
fire.
say? Who's to
Okay,
say?
totally different. And the strong guy doesn't have rocks. Okay,
Yeah, exactly. He looks normal. He can go to
Yeah.
he can go to work and have a job. It's fine.
exactly. Totally different. Not even similar.
Well, Tyler, thank you very much for talking with me today about Fantastic Four: The First Steps. I'm
Thank you
excited
for
to
having
see where this movie and these characters go. I'm probably going to have to read some of that Fantastic Four stuff at some point in the future. So thanks for throwing those recommendations out there. And to all of our fans who've listened, thank you so much for keep coming back and listening to what we have to say. Tell us who your favorite of the Fantastic Four characters are. You tell us who you think's going to win between the Fantastic Four from the movie versus the Incredibles with a team that's a little bit aged up and no Jack Jack, because demon baby who can teleport is not fair. We can't.
Hey, if we're not allowing Franklin, we're not allowing Jack Jack.
And honestly, now that I think about it, that's the similarity there, isn't it? Is it's the power cosmic versus Jack Jack. He's the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. Be sure to keep following on Spotify and get set up to get the notifications so that you can know whenever a new episode comes out. And with that, thanks very much and keep nerding out.
See ya.